Welcome to your e-learning video for today. Today's video, we're going to be going back and reviewing something you've learned in your algebra class recently, which is graphing inequalities. And remember, the idea behind graphing an inequality is similar to graphing it on a number line. You're going to draw a line, just like you picked a point, and then you're going to shade in one side or the other, just like you did on a number line. So before we do that, though, the first type of question that you're going to have on your assignment today is going to be questions like you did on your Algebra Lab assignment previously, which is telling whether a inequality is going to be true or false. And so these are set up a little bit differently than the ones you did the other day. In this case, you have one inequality, y is greater than or equal to negative 4x plus 5, and then you've got 4 points, and you're going to tell whether each one of these is either true or false. If it's true, you're going to mark the box, and if it's false, you're not going to. So on our first point, remember, you've got the point -1, 0, which means x is -1 and y is 0. So we're going to put those points into this inequality, and we're going to tell whether it's true or false. So we're going to put the -1 in for x and the 0 in for y, and so when we do that, this inequality is going to look like this. 0 is greater than or equal to -4 times -1 plus 5. So when you do that, is that inequality true or false? Okay, that inequality is going to be false because when we take -4 times -1, that's 4, and then 4 plus 5 is 9. So we have 0 is greater than or equal to 9. That is not a true inequality. That's a false inequality, so you will not mark that box. Okay, what about the next one? If we put 0 in for x and 7 in for y, is that going to be true or false? Okay, we put in 7 for y, so it's going to be 7 is greater than or equal to, and then -4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5, so we get 7 is greater than or equal to 5. And so yes, that is going to be a true inequality. What about the ordered pair 3, -1? All right, again, the -1 goes in for y. And when we put in 3 for x, we get -4 times 3, that's -12. -12 plus 5 is -7. And -1 is greater than or equal to -7. So that is a true inequality. So we would also mark that box. And then the final one down here, -2, -3, is that true or false? Okay, so in this inequality, it would be -3 is greater than or equal to 8 plus 5, which is 13. And -3 is not greater than 13. So you would not mark that box. So you would mark those 2 boxes and then hit submit on your MyOpenMath assignment. Okay, so your first 3 questions are like this. Then the rest of the questions, you're going to be graphing an inequality. And remember, when you do that, you want to graph the line and then shade in one side or the other. Now, the first thing you want to look at, though, is whether you're going to have a solid line or a dotted line. And remember, the way you tell the difference is based on the inequality sign. If the inequality sign has a line underneath it, it's a solid line. If it doesn't have a line underneath it, it's a dotted line. So in this case, we're going to graph with a solid line. So the first thing you want to do on MyOpenMath is make sure you click on the right box down here. So we want a solid line, so we want to use this box that's clicked right now. Okay, we're going to graph the line first. So we want to graph the line 8x minus y is greater than or equal to 8. And so just like we would have done before, we want to put that in slope-intercept form. So as we put that in slope-intercept form, what would your first step be? Okay, we move the 8x over, and so now it's going to be -y is greater than or equal to -8x plus 8. And then we want to divide by whatever's in front of the y. So in this case, we're going to divide by -1. So that makes it a positive 8x minus 8. But don't forget, with inequalities, when you divide by a negative, it changes the inequality sign around. So we want to make sure we do a less than or equal to now in between those. So we want to graph this line, y is less than or equal to 8x minus 8. So to graph that line, forget about the fact that it's less than or equal to right now. We just want to graph 8x minus 8. So when you graph 8x minus 8, you want to start at -8. And then for a slope of 8, you would go up 8 and over 1. So those are going to be our 2 points that we connect together to get our straight line. And so graph these 2 points together, and that's what our line is going to look like. And now remember, the second part of this problem is we're going to shade in one side or the other. And so pick a point, plug it into the inequality, see if it's true or false. And so 0, 0 is always a good point if you can use it, because it's an easy one to substitute in. If we put in 0 for x and 0 for y in this problem, always go back to your original one, because that way if you've made a mistake somewhere, it won't be wrong. So just go back to the original if you can. And so in this case, if we put in 0 for x and 0 for y, it would be 0 minus 0. So 0 is greater than or equal to 8. That's false. So this point on this side of the line is false, which means every point over here is false. Wouldn't have mattered which point you picked on this side of the line, you would have gotten a false answer, which means it doesn't matter which point you pick over here, it's going to be a true answer. So we want to shade in the true side of this graph. So we're going to shade in this side of the graph whenever we do that. Now on MyOpenMath, you aren't going to shade it in quite like that. Let me show you how it works on MyOpenMath whenever you go to do one of these problems. And so here is an example of the problem from MyOpenMath. And so if you look at this, we're going to graph y is greater than 1/4 x plus 2. So first of all, are we going to use a solid line or a dotted line? Okay, we want to use a dotted line because there is no line underneath this inequality. So we want to make sure we click on the dotted line box first. Okay, now we're going to graph y is greater than 1/4 x plus 2. So you want to graph this line 1/4 x plus 2. So remember what you've done for a long time now. You would start at the positive 2, and then for a slope of 1/4, you would go up 1 and over 4. And so that's your next dot. Now we just want to shade in one side or the other. So notice as we move our cursor back and forth, it's going to change which sides we're shading in. So we don't want to click until we know which side we're going to shade in. So let's pick this point 0, 0. If I put in 0, 0, is that a true statement or a false statement? Okay, if I put in 0 for x and 0 for y, my statement would be 0 is greater than 2. That's a false statement. So I do not want to click this side that has 0, 0. I want to click over here. If I put in like the point 0 for x and 4 for y, then it's a true statement because 0 is greater than 1/4 times, or 4 is greater than 1/4 times 0 plus 2. So that's the side I want to do. So I would just click that side of the line. That shades that in now. And then, of course, we would just hit submit. And if we hit submit, hopefully it's going to show us that we got the right answer there. Well, my internet's taking a while, so it's not showing me that. There we go. Got the right answer there. All right, so that's what you're going to be working on your lab assignment today, is graphing these inequalities. First of all, telling whether they're true or false, and then graphing these inequalities using MyOpenMath. So if you have any questions on that, make sure you send me an email or reach out to me through Canvas Messenger, and I'll try to help you out. But if not, good luck. That's the end for today.